All right, so welcome everybody, especially Jer, to today's LinkedIn Hump Day Hangout. 2 rules. We're going to have fun learning, and I want to empower you to learn how to use LinkedIn. Our only rule really is don't be a jerk. And today, I always want to give priority to people here live. So, but I do want to talk about company pages. So, like Jer, since you're here, other than what we were kind of just bantering about, is there anything on your mind that you
just jump to the company pages?
Jump to the company page? Okay, cool. So here, let me just pull up the questions. I had 2 questions come in, one from James, one from Vic, related to creating duplicate accounts. So James said, can I create multiple LinkedIn pages for my multi-location business or manage only one? So when you're dealing with multiple locations, it always gets hairy. And in the past, I've worked with like a corporation where everything's consolidated. I've worked with franchise where they're responsible for their own material. And I've worked with web companies where they are trying to figure out, how to structure the site. How should they do multi-location? And it's always a legitimately hard question to answer. How do you want to structure that? Everywhere, like your website, your Facebook pages, your Google business listings, LinkedIn is no different. So it's a really good question. It's that I don't think there's a cookie cutter answer. I'm going to talk about some pros and cons and what I feel like is the best option for whatever shoes you're in here in a minute. But I think that the reason why the question gets brought up about should I have 2 companies or not is mostly related, not every time, but mostly related to a local business who wants to have real estate in searches for branded search or for something that might be a money search for them. I don't see it really becoming a super big priority outside of that, because like if someone's just in the LinkedIn ecosystem, someone's identifying with the company page on their profile, and that's a lot of times all people are concerned about. There are exceptions, but usually if you're really wanting to make 2 separate company pages, it's usually a business that does local business listings, because that's usually how franchises end up going. I haven't seen like a big corporation want to create multiple company pages. They usually want one, and they want control over it. So, but the pain point is really real for some businesses in some situations, right? So let me just do this. I am going to share my screen just to give a visual, and so you don't have to keep looking at our faces. So I'm just going to go to my company page and go to the location. So if you have admin access, you can go click to edit, and then this is under the locations. I will say this last year, LinkedIn has definitely been investing resources in the company page. So this might change moving forward. So if you're wanting to just add multiple locations to one business listing or one company page, it's very easy. Just click the edit locations. You can click add location. There's not even a verification thing. You can just add it. Like I did this. I set this up years ago when you could get away with no city and zip code. And then just for fun, to prepare for this yesterday, I added another location, and I just did it. This isn't even the right zip code for this city. This is technically Lee's Summit, but you can add a bunch of locations, and it's really easy. And then you set a primary. So that's the route LinkedIn would prefer you to go, but it might not always be, like I said, the best avenue. So let's do this too. If you were wanting to, create a company page right here. Let's just do small business for fun. And then what you'll find is you might hit a wall if you're trying to create a duplicate. So just be aware of that. So at LinkedIn, they want, they want it consolidated. They don't want duplicates, just like Google, right? So here, let me just stop sharing my screen for a second. So let's talk about real quick the pros and cons. Jer, feel free to chime in here too. I think creating multiple pages. So the pros, if you're going to create duplicate, so you wouldn't want to create just a straight up duplicate. It has to be different enough, like if you're a mold company and you have your own local franchise, as like a case study, if you're a mold company and you have a franchise, maybe the franchise started in Pennsylvania on the East Coast and you're in like San Diego, it's a really bad experience for your company. It's a really bad experience for your employees, for your customers. If that first location on the East Coast has no relationship with you on the West Coast, that they're just totally, even though they might share the same branding, if they're totally different companies, it's a bad experience all around. And it's not going to show up in a branded search, that kind of thing, because it's so far away. So if you want to create multiple pages, I think the pros are you have more real estate in search and you have control over it. Like if you're dealing with like corporate has the page or franchise owner has the page, you might never like be able to do anything with that. So if you create your own, you just have control, which is nice. The cons, creating multiple pages would be, it can cause confusion among employees, right? You're not going to have the data aggregated between all the company pages. That's a con. You'll have to start from scratch with your following, which would make your paid advertising not go quite as far. And even if you wanted to share stuff, like if you're hiring, that kind of stuff that you do organically or news releases, that kind of thing wouldn't go as far because you have to build your own following instead of relying on the nationwide network. For creating multiple pages, in my mind, those are the big pros and cons. Jared, do you have any thoughts on that? And we'll talk about pros and cons of one page in a second.
Yeah, I think if you want a presence and only want a presence for your company on LinkedIn, then use just one page, and then it's not really wise to have multiple pages. But if you are on different cities, or you have a specific niche in the company that you are running, even if you're a franchise, and you want to tailor to a different kind of market, then it's wise to have multiple pages, because then you have control over what you want to achieve. And it's not one message that's going out, because you can differentiate the better. I think that's the best way to go. See what you want to achieve with the page. If it's only a presence, don't take 2 pages, because it's 2 times the work.
Yeah, I agree. I completely agree. Like I wouldn't want to create 2 pages for myself, right? Because it just feels janky. I would want to do it all on one page, and then if there's another business entity like a franchise or whatever it is in real life, if it makes sense for them to have a separate marketing presence, then it makes sense to do 2 pages. But it's them doing it, and it's like a different company, different website, different domain, different emails, different customer service phone number, totally different experience. A big corporate structure might have that too, but it comes down to control, website, and who's doing the marketing, and if they rely on local, I think is big in the mix too.
I think you're completely right.
So if you're going to make one page like we just did on LinkedIn, which is LinkedIn's preferred method, so a couple pros with that. I mean, the fact that it's LinkedIn's preferred method, I think, is a pro for the long run, just to play by their rules. If it's on one page, the control is consolidated, which might be nice for you, just for a number of reasons. So you have total control. If you want your organic and paid to go farther, it's one bucket of followers instead of lots of buckets. You have all of your data all in one place. It's not going to you can't bring in a bunch of data, at least not easily, not through LinkedIn, from lots of company pages and campaigns and stuff into one master account. So you'd have all your data. Those are pros. I think it's easier for employees to know which location to choose. I've come across people that work for big companies, and just over the years, I mean, businesses gets a little bit hairy. There's acquisitions and stuff, and sometimes a company will buy another company and they'll retain the name but change it a little bit. And so employees are like, I'm not sure which company page to choose because it's like they're all right. But
Yeah.
if you talk to the people in charge of the company, they'd say, no, it's not all right. Only this one's right. So being in control, having it all in one place helps with employee confusion, LinkedIn user confusion. So that is a big pro to having everything, multiple locations on one page. The cons to having just one page, which we kind of talked about earlier, you might never get admin access to it. So if you need to be your location to be added, you might never get added. If you need to change the content, you might never be able to do that because you don't have access to it. The primary location might be really different. So if you're, especially if you're local, like again, if you're in San Diego and the primary location is set to, East Coast, New York, and somebody is looking for what you do in California, and they go to the LinkedIn page and they're like, oh, it's in New York. This maybe isn't the right company. That can be a bad user experience too, because finding all the locations is just a little bit, you have to dig deeper. So that can be the con to one page. So like, I don't want to leave people confused. I think that a good rule of thumb is if you have your own domain, if you do your own marketing, especially if you're local, if you rely on search, and if it makes sense for you, if you're doing all that yourself, it makes sense to create your own company page. That's when I think it makes sense. But if you are like a corporate structure with top-down control, everything needs to be consolidated. You have one website, one marketing team. I think it's best practice to keep one LinkedIn company page and to add locations there. So it's almost like you make the LinkedIn page reflect what's going on in your natural business infrastructure. What do you think, Jer?
Yeah, I think you're completely right. And another advantage, if you're doing just one web page over one LinkedIn site, that if your message is clear there, your employees, you enable them to get the right message in their profiles. Because a lot of employees go to their company page to reach out the gems that are hidden in there text-wise, and copy them into their own LinkedIn profile. So you enable them to adopt the right message.
That's such a good point, Jer. I see that all the time. People that don't know what to put in their work history for their company. So instead of, talking about what they do, they go to the company page and they copy paste that. And so what's on the company page it goes all over the place, especially as you grow, and your message that's there, your employees are copy pasting it for you. That's a really good point. And if that message is not correct, that becomes a problem for you. That's a
correct.
Great point. Really good point. Are you familiar with StoryBrand? Donald Miller, he's an author. Yeah. I was in Tennessee, and I was really wanting to go by their office. So I was messaging a bunch of their employees, and I noticed that they were really good about that. They had all of their employees, and that's part of their company mantra, is like, let's have one clear message. But you could see that play out. They had the company page was very specific, and then the employees all for that company had very, very, very similar language. A lot of it was copy pasted from the company page, and it was really like, oh, these guys have their stuff together for me to see.
Yeah,
there's no
real congruent story, and if you're going to check them out, and most people when they encounter an employee, they search them out on LinkedIn, and what they read there, they go further, they check out the company page or the company LinkedIn page, and if everything is the same, it's building up trust, so they can be helped to cross the bridge to your offering.
Yep, I agree. I agree. I've not really thought about the idea of company page content being syndicated through employees before, and how that's got to even be part of it. Might even be like an SEO type thing, because if someone has their public profile turned on,
Yeah.
Google's going to index that page, I think including their work history description.
Mm-hmm.
If that's all the same surrounding your brand, that has to be good for you.
Yeah.
Huh.
If you do it like that, and you're communicating from the company page, and you enable your employees to share and interact with the message that you're putting out there, the personal profiles tend to have much more reach than the company page. So your message is going faster. And if you help people to share your message and actually uh, advocate that they do, your message is going much farther, and LinkedIn is then a big help in your branding.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So summary, since this was kind of a longer one, uh, summary would be, if you, the reason why I keep saying, by the way, if you have your own website, is part of creating a company page means you have an email verified on your LinkedIn account that matches the domain of the business that you're adding, right? And so, does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it makes, that's their rule. I mean, it makes sense. So if you have your own website, especially, you do your own marketing, do your own branding, especially if you're local. If the way your business is set up is unique enough from other similar parts of your larger company, then it makes sense for you to create your own company page. Create it, manage it, and use it for lots of reasons. If your business structure is you have one main website, one big marketing team, maybe complex, but one, you're in control of it, not like a franchise is usually set up in the States. And you need total control over that, then it's best practice to add multiple locations to one company page. And they're still going. It's not a perfect system. There's going to be situations where some people get the shaft, but as a rule of thumb, I think that's. Would anything to add to that?
No, I think you're completely right in that summary.